This is part 2 of a 3-part series about the Bigfoot Whisperers, people who talk with and interact with Bigfoot. My second guest today is a Native American woman whose tribe has been in contact with Bigfoot for centuries. Hey Robin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, like your tribe and a little bit of your background, just a short little intro?
Yes, I am on my maternal side. I am Pit River, Modoc, and a little bit of Paiute, and a lot of the Round Valley tribes. And Round Valley is in Northern California, kind of toward the coast. And I run a page called California Native Bigfoot Forum and Entities on Facebook. And I am a student at San Francisco State University. I'm a double major in creative writing and American Indian Studies.
So when you approached the Bigfoot and were able to meet with them, what you just walk in there and be like, hey, we're here to help. We're not going to hurt you. Or what did you do? Like, how did you go about it?
Well, the first time me and my friend went gifting, we took our package with us. We take garlic. He was going to throw it and run, but he said something told him, don't throw it, bring it in. And this is territory that people don't go into. And so, but before I entered, I asked them if it was okay if I could, may I enter, I said. And I figured if they didn't want me to, they were going to stop me. But they let me enter, and I told them, who I was. I was with my friend, and that I had a gift. And they let us go pretty far in there. And they, gave us places to, put our gifting. And they, we just kind of discussed our business, and then they showed us how to get out. Because if they don't guide you out, you will get lost.
How'd they talk to you? Did they speak English? Like, oh, hey, how's it going?
They kind of, it's a different level. It's kind of like you can hear them, but in your head.
Telepathy, you mean?
Yeah,
telepathic.
Telepath. And what was interesting was because I lost one of my gloves out on the trail, and I didn't know it. And then it would have been left out there, and I didn't know where it was because I didn't know, how to get there. Everything kind of looked the same. You wouldn't know if you're going north, east, west, south, because it's kind of the canopy. It was daytime, but the canopy blocked out a lot of the sun, so it was darkish. And so when we were leaving, one of them told me, it told me to look on the ground. I looked on the ground, and I seen my glove laying there. And so I picked it up, and I thanked them, but I didn't know that I lost that glove. So they helped me to note different landmarks coming in and to note them coming out. And so after they let us out, then they put a big giant stump in the way that they let us in, because they let us in, but they kind of didn't want anybody else coming in after that. And we never meet in the same place or in the same manner.
So you're talking all nonchalant, like, oh yeah, I met Bigfoot, but how does it feel to be around them? Is it scary, or is it like amazing, or what?
It kind of felt like meeting royalty, ancient royalty.
Are they regal? Like, do they have a powerful presence?
Yeah, I would, for our experience, yeah. And we went way up onto this other really slopey area down the road, and there was like orange and grape crush bottles up there. And I thought, well, who's coming up here and drinking and leaving their garbage? And one of them told me that people didn't bring it here. It was one of the youth that brought it here because they steal those, and because they like the sweet. And it was stuck in areas where people, really couldn't reach.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So how often do you meet with them? Like, oh, I just meet them every day, Bigfoot.
No, only once in a while when that dark doctor came out here to fight with us. That's when we went up there, and we had to go out there and, get some extra help.
Man, I'd love to hear the telepathic communication in my head. because I'm curious on what it feels like, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I wish I could learn from them too. That'd be so interesting. I wonder if they'd take like a student or let someone live with them for a while.
I guess it would be up to them, but the older ones, that's has the say, because that their society is built just the opposite of mainstream society, where our elders get old and you're going to retire, we got to put you in a rest home, sit you in a wheelchair and put you in the car and let you die. That's not how their structure is. It's that in order to advance and have hierarchy in their structure, it means you have to age, but you have to learn and have experience. Theirs is just the opposite of what people do. They do have a structure, and they do have a leadership, and it's pretty much set up the same way our old tribes were, with clan mothers and aunties and brothers and uncles who watched over the little ones. They have sentries and guards. There's also rogues. And people would, ask, well, how do you know? Well, I asked them, and they told me. They pretty much showed me in their own way. And that would be, another subject, like I said. That they have to have that hierarchy and that organization in order to be protected, as long as they have been.
So they have like almost like military, like scouting units and all this other stuff. And what kind of creatures was it that you asked that told you that?
The oldest one.
What's the oldest one?
The oldest one is usually, if it's an old male, what they call the clan lord. He's the one who makes all the final decisions. He's the most.
I mean creature. Like what creature was it? Bigfoot? Was it little people?
Yeah, he was a big Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, in my friend's territory. Yeah,
so
I did see him with my eyes. He's a big cast iron black, real handsome-looking fella.
What kind of lips did they have by chance? Do you recognize their lips?
There's all different shaped lips, like how people have, but the ones that we've had around here, kind of like a thin lip. A thin, kind of drier lip. And I guess some of them have like the fuller. I guess it all depends on their family traits, the different territories. I didn't meet as many females as I met males, but yeah, I had met with a few females, but mostly we dealt with a lot of the males, because they're the ones who are usually on the outer perimeter. First time I seen a pair of white eyes was right where across from my friend's property, and they were way up in the tree, and I didn't know what that was, but he explained it to me. He said, well, if they're the white eyes, they're more inquiring and they're friendly.
What kind of things does the Bigfoot like as gifts? What do they like? Well,
we take garlic, dehydrated fruit, because sometimes they come for miles when they meet with us, and we package it in like something like a burlap or something biodegradable packaging. And my friend said that he puts little slits in the garlic to release the scents once they get there, so that they know what we have and they know why we're there. They pretty much, tell us where to place the things, and we don't take anything fresh or meats or anything like that. Maybe dehydrated meats, because we don't know how far they came and how far they have to go back, and we don't want anything, fermenting or something that can keep for a while.
I was always curious about why they avoid people so much, like the Western world. Like, what is the reasoning behind it? Why do they want to be so hidden?
I was told that it was because they seen what colonization did to the natives, and what a lot of the native people had lost. And they've seen what the strangers can and would do, and that they have no limits. And naturally, you would want to avoid a race or anything that has no care of, just coming in and taking over and just throwing caution and rules and laws to the wind. and they see, the pride. Like you said, they have their histories too, and they keep them. That's one of them that's kept.
That makes a lot of sense. So they know that they don't respect, like, especially I was thinking they're not human. So look how bad they treated Native people and the black people. How bad would they treat a non-human? They'd probably treat them like monsters and try to hunt them to extinction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very intelligent, and they know the cost and the price of, and where they stand amongst modern men. And that's why they keep their ways as pure and as ancient as they can, knowing that modern thinking cannot really excel to that level, so they will never be understood. And a measure of not understanding something will put in fear and defensiveness.
People just see something they don't understand, they automatically get scared and want to shoot at it. Like, I heard stories of like some strange creatures approaching a house and they just start unloading on the creatures. Like, how do you know that they're a danger? Like, just because they look different,
Mm-hmm.
Like ignorant fear.
Yeah, and I was told that the subject in the Patterson Gimlin film, she knew she was being filmed. She was deterring, from something. She was protecting the others. She was not alone. I was told that they're never alone. You might see one. You might think that's the only one. They're never alone. Mm-hmm.
I don't think people understand what the Native people mean when they say spiritual or spirit. Or the Western world thinks spirit. They think like a dead person's soul, like floating around. But I know that it means more than that in Native culture. Like, everything has a certain spirit, like almost like it's an energy.
For non-believers to grasp it and get their questions answered, they have to change their way of thinking. Like, if you're going to learn math, you have to change your ways of thinking from ABCs to 1, 2, 3s. They're not going to find the answers by tree knocking and screaming around and all these things, because that doesn't go for everybody. If you have a house, when somebody's going to come. You can hear somebody come in your house. You can hear them open the door and walking around and making noise and going through things. That's the way it is with them. When we, go out gifting, I always assume that somebody's home, that they're watching me, that they see me, because that's their home. They understand the place. They know the structure of the land and the lay of. They're going to be on alert. They want to know why I'm there. I do work with the medicine team, and we have went out and we have done business with them, but we never did research them, because to us that's like would be me going to your house and researching you, uninvited, unknown, unattended. That to us that's rude. And what my elders said was that they are a tribe all their own. They're a nation all their own. And they have their ways, and they're entitled to, observe their abilities, and we respect them. And they're well aware of humans and what we're capable and incapable of. But once we go into their territory, into their place, and we're basically on their rules, and those rules really aren't meant to be bent. That's what a lot of people. We can't put them on our level, because they're not human like us, and we aren't really on them. We're not like them. Native Americans are their oldest neighbor. That's why I call them the big neighbors.
The spiritual realities is the same as saying like a quantum universe with multiple different like universes and realities, and there's some things that know how to be between or partially one, partially another. When the Native people talk about it, they're talking about the spirit world. Because if you're going to try to explain it in like a scientific Western way, you'd be saying like interdimensional beings they're partially in one world and partially in another. Or like what we mean by spirit or spirit world could also mean in Western civilization is like different dimensions. I want to tell you something about Inupiaq culture, Eskimo. That's Eskimo, Inupiaq.
Mm-hmm.
The old stories say that the shamans knew that there was 9 different worlds, or 8, including this one, like parallel worlds, like different realities. And some shamans knew how to open a doorway and go in between it. And they said that there's peoples that know how to travel in between these worlds. And I always thought are they talking about like little people and Sasquatch and all these other things? And the interesting thing about the Inupiaq saying that there's 9 total different worlds is that you heard in Norse mythology, they talk of 9 realms also. So I don't know if you ever heard anything similar to that in your culture.
Yeah, that's interesting. They never really categorized it, in the 9. I think they just probably didn't think about it because they kind of live in a mindset of it is what it is, except that it exists or you don't. But even if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's still there. But as far as the different levels, yeah, I believe that. So. There was something to the stories. That's why there was just a lot of things that can't be explained.
With Bigfoot, do you think they are flesh or spirit?
I believe that they are spirit. But like my elder said, when something has to take the assumption of a solid figure, that's what they'll do to protect themselves. They can morph. Because when we were out with my friend, we seen one down the road, but he went, it was dark, but there was a street light there. He kind of went through the street light, just enough, and he was a giant. I'd say he was a good, no less than about 9 feet tall, a pretty good about 5 feet wide. But when he went through the light, he was walking away from us, but when he got into the shadows, he morphed down into a dog, a big dog, and my friend looked down there too, and he just kind of had this look on his face, and he said, "Oh, that's just a dog." But I could tell when I looked in his eyes, he knew. And so then it turned into like this dog-looking thing, a dog, and it was wagging its tail, and then 2 others showed up, and he knows all the res dogs around there, but he didn't know these dogs, and they just kind of ran around in the road, and then they just kind of went down the road and disappeared.
So they're shapeshifters? So they can shapeshift?
I believe so, yeah. Can I share with you my cousin's story about a Bigfoot?
Sure, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, yeah. He was out hunting with a friend, and the friend took his son. And they were out. This was also, up in Round Valley in Mendocino. I believe this was east out into the mountains, a place where they call Ranger Camp. They were out hunting, and they shot a wild hog, and they brought that in, and then they seen a big deer, what they call them bucks out here. So they said, well, they left the little boy with the hog. They said, well, you stay here with the hog, and we're going to go hunt this buck. So they chased it down. They followed it, and they shot it. And when they shot it, they seen this big giant, massive man. When they see him, they call it a man. A big, hairy, tall, blue-black colored one, male. And he comes out of the trees, and he picks up their kill and puts it on his shoulder and just walks away with it. And my cousin, he's a big coward, and so he's like, I'm done. And so they went back to where they left the little boy with the hog, and the little boy was sitting there shaking, and the hog was gone. And the father asked me, what happened? What's wrong? Where'd the pig go? And the boy wouldn't answer him. And so since all this all started happening, they decided it's time to go home. And it was still daytime. The sun was going down, but it was still light. So they all took off, and they had to go over this hill, this steep hill. And when they got to the hill, they seen that big male carrying their hog under one arm and their deer slung over his shoulder. And he said that he was a giant. He was about 8 foot tall or more. But he was carrying that game. And so they kept a good distance behind him, and they watched him walk up to the top of that hill. And when he got to the top of the hill, he turned around and looked at them. And then he just kind of melted down into the ground. and he was gone. And so they went up on top of the hill. They looked around, down to the other side. There was no footprints, nothing. That's like he just kind of got into that, into that setting sun. He just went down.
Have you ever heard of, from any elders or anybody? Because I always hear stories, people see like a paranormal creature like a dogman or something, and they always say it has a glowing orange or yellow or red eyes. Do you know anything about what the color of the glow would mean, or why they glow?
Well, I had some friends who said that if they see a green glow, that could mean like there's a flood coming. I was told that yellow means kind of like either a startle or an alert. Me and my sister did see a yellow eye, a Bigfoot. We were visiting a friend up in Trinity County. He lives about 12 miles south of Bluff Creek, where the famous Patterson Gimlin film was recorded. We were going to visit him at night. This is what I call the Bigfoot capital of our state. Of course, the natives live there and a few non-natives. But we were going along on the road there. I was looking at the speedometer because it crosses a bridge and then it goes into a sharp curve. So I was looking down at my speedometer. So I didn't see it, but she seen like this black thing go across just kind of like jump over the guardrail. And just when I got to the bridge, I looked up and I seen this big, huge, it was about as big as a reflector, this big gold glow. And I thought it was either a really big cat or a reflector. But it was kind of attached to a big black shaggy head. And I seen that reflector, and then it ducked down over the guardrail. And so, I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't want to think, let's put it that way. And so we went to his house, and we told him about it. And he said, that must be one of them. So I kind of didn't believe him. Then he knows his territory. So we went back, and we went back through that way again, and there were no reflectors there. So, but what I took that at is that he was just walking around, and he happened to get caught, and that was kind of his eye shine. It was that was his way of being alert, and kind of like I think he must have known he got caught, and so we went back the next day, and and looked around there, and we kind of measured. There was a slope there. And for him to be able to peek over at us over that guardrail, he had to have been a good 10 foot, 8 foot tall.
How come they don't like to use tools like us or wear? I know they don't wear clothes because they have fur, but what about tools? How come they don't do that?
Yeah, they have tools. They just don't look like tools.
What do they use as a tool then? Can you explain a little bit?
I seen one up around Shasta County. I got acquainted with one up there, and he had like this pyramid-shaped volcanic rock. I could tell that it was sharp at the point, and it was kind of weathered around the side, and looked like it was used like a type of wrench or something, like to twist something and to kind of chisel at something. And another thing was this kind of flat-looking, these two flat pieces of wood, kind of square-shaped, and they use those to paddle together to let their own know where they're at.
Like a boat? Paddle boat?
No, it was kind of like shaped like a book, like a big book, a big wooden square book.
I know, but do they have boats to paddle? That's what I mean.
Oh, do they? I don't really. The ones particular that I was familiar with didn't, because they were real strong swimmers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And an elder who was Wintu tribe. He said that they could walk on the bottom of deep, swift rivers, even when it was cold.
Do you think if I was to get a lot of gifts and go down there, you'd be able to show me or take me to meet them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, and I wouldn't want to betray them and do anything.
Oh, yeah, betrayal is an abomination with them. Some medicine people told me is that they're very close with natives. That's why they might bother us more than they would somebody else. And that's when Bigfoot was investigating over in the Reno territory, Nevada, wherever they were. All the Bigfoot population went over to bother the Washoe and the Paiutes. They're trying to get away from. They didn't want to be, studied, so they went to the nearest res to hide out.
What I would want to do is I'd want to just learn some things from them. Maybe I just think it would be really interesting to know more about them because it's like they don't have, their history wasn't destroyed like the Inupiaq people. A lot of our culture is destroyed, and they still have a lot of their old ways. So it'd be really interesting to be able to meet with them. Anyway, I hope to get to talk to you again, and maybe if you'd allow me, I would love to be able to meet like Sasquatch with you, because that is such a rare. Like, I know one other guy that knows how to do it too. He met with them. But it's so rare to be able to hear that people can do that. Well,
I'll see what we can do on this end, and it may take some time, but I'm pretty sure we'll get our answers.
Okay. Well, it was very nice talking to you, and hopefully I get to talk to you again. You should add me on Facebook.
Okay, I will. All right. Thank you very much. Yes. And much respect to you and to all your people in your community.
In this interview, we covered a lot of strange topics about Bigfoot. For example, Bigfoot is able to communicate telepathically, and apparently they're able to go into another dimension or reality. We also talked a little bit about how Native people say the spirit world and Western civilization will think, oh, she's talking about a ghost or he's talking about a ghost. But if you want to look at it through a different lens, you could say a different dimension. It's basically a language barrier that prevents us from understanding what the Native Americans are actually talking about. A lot of these concepts, like Sasquatch being able to communicate telepathically, are not very widely accepted in mainstream society. I think it's because it's something we don't really understand. It's beyond our understanding, so therefore it can't be real because we're all knowing. I think it's important to take a step back and realize and humble ourselves a little bit. We are not all knowing. And this is the second Native American tribe that I've talked to where they know that the Bigfoot can talk telepathically. So when you hear those stories, you shouldn't be so quick to dismiss it. We don't really understand these things, and I think they're beyond our level of understanding. If you think about societies having the capability of progressing it like a tree in multiple directions, like evolution, we have taken an evolutionary path for our technology to focus on the material world and the physical science of this reality. It's possible that there are other civilizations out there that grew from the understanding of shamanism and the understanding of how the mystical or the magical work, and understanding how the fabric of reality works, we're able to manipulate it and develop advanced science off it. Is it possible that the Bigfoot are part of this phenomenon? In my previous interview with the monk, he talked about how they're one with nature when they're born. They're always like that. And it made me think of animals, how they could sometimes will growl and bark at things that are invisible to us. Is it possible that these Bigfoot and other creatures are one with nature in the sense that we can be too, if we're not so clouded with not being our true selves? Like they're more naturally themselves, so they're able to be more one with themselves, so they can flow with nature. And we had to put up all these fronts, like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm crazy. Oh, I'm too fat. Oh, I don't want to say that. That's embarrassing. We think too much. We block ourselves off from shining with our true selves. And that prevents us from having access to these spiritual realms. One of the trends that I'm seeing in a lot of these interviews with people who communicate with the supernatural is they practice meditation, and they are able to be more raw with themselves, more truthful with themselves. If you think of a baby and a child, they don't give a damn what anyone thinks about them. That's why they do all this crazy, stupid stuff. And they're able to see these strange things often. You'll often hear stories about, oh, the child could see things, but nobody else could see it. Oh, the dog's barking at something invisible. When we're in the I don't give a damn mindset, like I don't care about what anyone thinks about me, I have no filter, no block, that's that state when you're really flowing. And that flowing state seems to be the state that allows these people to interact with these mythological beings like Sasquatch. I'll cover this in another video about shamanism, but I've experienced a lot of these strange things. And we'll get more into this in the future videos, but I've met people who can also communicate with Dogman, supposedly. And they also practice meditation. They also were able to become one with nature. So, is there something to this? Is there some science to the psychic communication, to interdimensional travel, to being able to go into rock or open a portal, or all this sci-fi stuff that makes no sense that we don't understand? Is it possible that we are just ignorant and we don't understand how this stuff works? And if we were to really delve into it and try to unlock these secrets, maybe we'll actually understand how it works logically. In a future video, I'm going to talk about shamanism, and I'm going to explain some of these concepts in a more scientific light so you guys could get a different perception on it from the hokey pokey, like crazy view that it looks like from the outside perspective. Is because it's not really well explained. And I'm going to do a video explaining that. If you want to help this channel grow, be sure to like and subscribe. Each like and each subscribe helps boost my channel so more people will see it. The more people that see it, the more stories I get, and the faster I can continue with my work. Thank you.